Welcome back to the channel, guys. Today I want to talk to you about pitching, and not only pitching, a shot that is going to arguably, I think this is going to save you 4 or 5 shots around. And the reason why it's so influential is because it is a shot that if you miss a fairway, hack it out the trees, and leave yourself a certain yardage, you're going to need this shot. You're going to hit a good drive on a short par 4, you're going to need this shot. If you hit good 2 shots on a par 5, you're going to need this shot. It's the shot that comes from 40 to 60 yards. Something and a shot that nobody practices, so few practice. And I'll tell you the reason why. You go down the range and you go and spend, depending on where you are in the country, you go down to the World of Golf in Rains Park, you'll spend £20 for an hour's worth of golf balls. You go to Silvermere, you'll spend £20 on golf balls for 100. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money to stand there hitting little chip shots 40 to 60 yards or pitch shots 40 to 60 yards. So I think it's a shot that for those range junkies, it's not one that particularly makes you feel enthused about hitting little shots. Then you think about going to the golf course. How many places actually have the opportunity to hit shots from 40 to 60 yards to a green, to a practice green? Not often. You then go to a range, your grass range, or should I say even just a range with mats at your local club, got no target of 40 to 60 yards invariably. So you then have to go out onto the range and start sticking umbrellas out and stuff like that. Well, as a kid, we used to stick umbrellas out and try and whip it in the umbrella from 40 to 60 yards. And we used to do it for hours on end. So it was a shot that we really enjoyed playing as kids, and short game was something that we loved to do. I think when you get a little bit older, you want to see a 7-iron down the range, you want to see a driver down the range. I run boot camps in the winter time out to Portugal, and one of the drills I get the guys and girls to do on the very first day is stand there and just hit shots to an umbrella, to a yardage of between 40 and 60 yards, and see how many times they hit within that area. Let me tell you, off a grassy range, or sort of say sandy grassed range, you know, when you go to Europe, there can be a bit of sand kicking around on the range. Striking is premium, and it's premium when you go out on the golf course. It's a shot that people don't like to practice. So today I want to give you a few thoughts, a few feelings that are going to make you just a little bit more aware on how you can make some better contacts through strike. Let's get going. As usual, I've got 4 boxes up, slightly different boxes today. I've got the attack angle. This is really going to dictate the dynamic loft that we put on the club. That dynamic loft is ultimately going to dictate how high and how far the golf ball is going to go. The face to path value, well, we know that if we have a closed face to path, we take loft down. If we have an open face to path, we increase the loft. That's why it's up there. And then we've got the carry. We don't really need to worry about the path so much. We don't really need to worry too much about the face angle, because we can get that orientation with the face to path value. The distance I'm going to start us off with is 40 yards. Let's see if I can find 40 yards. I'm fresh off of holiday, haven't hit a shot for 2 weeks. Nice tan, eh? Decent. Wife was well happy that I came away browner than her. She was in the shade all week, I was in the sorry, she was in the sun all week and I was in the shade. Factor 50 as well. Anyway, who cares about that? So, that was the first shot. Let's see how far that went. 30 yards. Not too bad. Let's go again. Just going to get a few under my belt. $30 yards. Might need to hit it a little bit harder, Stuart. $37.8. That's a bit more like it. Let's just go one more. Beautiful, 42.4. So, let's talk about the data that we're going to start to see on the screen here. So the attack angle at 3.6 down. The attack angle is, when I see pitching, the attack angle is either super light or super steep. It's very rare that you see someone that is a good pitcher anyway, from this sort of range, that has an attack angle in the right window. Between 3 and 6, 3 and 5, I would say. The reason why it's such an important ingredient in this 40 to 60 yard range is because it really gives you insight into the acceleration of the handle. If the attack angle is too high, it tells us the acceleration of the handle is too aggressive. If the attack angle is too low, it tells us the acceleration of the head is too much. So to give you what those visuals would be, if someone was 6, 7, 8 degrees down, and I'll hit one of those shots. So 8 degrees down, it means that my handle has accelerated, out-accelerated the club head. If the attack angle was too light, and I'll go back down to sort of -1 and 0, -3, so I need a little bit less than that, Stuart. So 0. The club head has now had too much energy. So there's your 0, or your positive attack angle, that's too light. And there's the guy that's a little bit too much down. Now the trouble with both ends of those spectrums is the low point of the golf swing is going to arrive too much, either before the golf ball or after the golf ball. So when you've got someone that's accelerating the handle, the club wants to bottom out over here. When you've got someone that's accelerating the club head, the club wants to bottom out before the ball. Now what happens when you play fuller shots and you've got more speed and energy in the swing, the weight of the golf club starts to control and rule you, rather than when the club starts to swing slower, those influences that you put on the golf club start to truly influence the club because it's all happening less. If the club's got less momentum, you can influence it more because the forces and the weight of this club are lighter. But when the forces and the weight of this golf club go up, when we start swinging full, you can appease those forces, or should I say, you can't influence those forces as much because the weight of the club is too heavy. There's too much momentum on its side that rules you. Still have an influence, but it will be less so. So what happens is, if someone that has a light attack angle with their irons then comes to pitch the ball, when they suddenly get to a spot where they have a short shot or a light shot, they then start to feel a little uncomfortable with the shots. And that's why I believe that we see so few people practicing this 40 to 60 yard shot, because people find it so blinking difficult. If you managed, you got yourself on a track, man, and you just dealt with the attack angle, just worked on the attack angle and changed the way the attack angle behaved, and you started to get it into a window that allowed the attack angle to stabilize, you'd start to find better striking. Now, how you go about that, well, that's a whole new conversation. But I want to give you insight into where you would want to look first. Now, if you're a guy that is a light attack angle guy, you would want to favour the golf ball further back in your stance. So I'm going to make the golf club try to unload, but I'm going to put the ball back in my stance. I can unload the golf club, but even when I unload the golf club, because the ball is back in my stance, I'm still able to produce an attack angle that's a long way down. If I make that same move and unload the golf club, but the ball is further forwards, I hit the ground first and I create no attack angle. TrackMan didn't see that because it was 8 inches fat. The guy that's super steep, lots of divot, I could create that super shaft lean, and it's not really shaft lean, but again, that's another conversation. So the person that arrives with the handle a long way forwards is very steep. You might want to make the ball go a long way forwards. You create lots of shaft lean through your shots. Well, I can make that same feel happen, but because I've now put the ball further forwards, my attack angle has reduced. So you can just set the golf ball that either helps or hinders you depending on where your golf swing sits. All the time you then start to find a ball position that helps you with your pitching, go with it. Therefore, if the ball is further forwards in your stance, you're going to start to meet that ball on the way back in. And therefore, you might want to stand a bit more to the right. You want to aim to the right because you're going to meet the ball on the way back in. So I could aim over here. If I'm going to meet the ball later in my stance, the ball is going to go straighter. If you're a guy that puts the ball a long way back, you might want to be a little bit more open because that's going to help you square the face up and square the shot up. So ball position and attack angle work hand in hand. So that's the first thing that you, if you have, or you are lucky enough to work with a TrackMan, that's the first thing that you would want to start looking at. The second thing that you want to then appreciate is the energy and the grip pressure. The grip pressure is something that really feels like it ramps up in these pitch shots. And as soon as the grip pressure ramps up, it really influences the levers. So a good little drill is to hold the golf club up in your hand and try to move the handle without the head moving. So look how much my handle's moving and how little the head is moving. If I'm tight with my hold, when I move my handle, the head moves at the same rate. I now move my hand, and now the club head stays in the same spot. If you can make the head stay in the same spot and move the handle, you can now feel the energy that the handle needs to make the head trail. And at that point, you want to make it feel the same. So you could then lift the club head up, move the handle, and try to keep the head in the same spot. Keep that same grip pressure, go down to the golf ball, and now try to keep that same grip pressure when you're hitting a shot. If you feel the grip pressure rise up, you'll start to sense that there's a change in the way your levers are going to behave. Because when we pull on the golf club, we should be able to pull on the golf club and make it feel like the head follows and the head doesn't lead. But that feels vulnerable because all of a sudden it feels like the handle's moved and the head's come along later. It hasn't come down one for one. Because when we get so close to the so close to the target, it feels like it needs to almost be wooden. And this is why I really hate there's that really big push for people to go, look how a Jason Day, let's say, for instance, is really wooden. He doesn't have any wrist set. There's a really, really dangerous place to be for most amateur golfers. Wrist set helps you. Wrist set doesn't hinder you. Wrist set makes you appreciate how we can generate speed with a head, but less energy with the handle. Whereas when we take wrist set out and we make it all wooden, attack angles get super low, balls get a long way back in our stance and only bad things happen. So just be cautious when you're copying a Jason Day that has a real big body turn and wooden arms. Just be cautious. We want to feel like the golf club has got some weight in it and some set and unload, because that's going to help you. It's going to help you feel speed with the head. It's really important, particularly when you're trying to play pitch shots, because speed with the head will make you feel like you can accelerate. No speed with the head makes you feel like you've got to find it somewhere else. So there's a few thoughts there on how to work on some pitching. Again, big topic, don't want to go on too much about it, but it's a big topic to cover. Like is in this golf game, there is so much to talk about. But hopefully that's given you some insight into how to play those 40 to 60 yard shots and the importance of them. If you've liked the video, do hit the like button, share and subscribe with your friends. As you'll agree, that's good coaching.